Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Julie Webb with Digium. I'm the Marketing Communications Director here. And today on Asterisk Live, we have with us not only David Duffett, my co-host, but we also have with us Ben Klang. He's the principal at Mojo Lingo. And Ben will be joining us at AstroCon here in another 9 weeks. So very exciting. And right now, we're going to turn it over to David Duffett to get us started.
Well, thank you, Julie. I appreciate that, and I'm very excited to be conducting this little mini interview with Ben, not only because it's Ben Klang, but also because I'm doing it from a spiritual home of Asterisk here in Huntsville. I'm in Digium HQ, and just to prove that, let me just show you out the window. There you go. It's all looking pretty good out there, isn't it? Pretty good. So, Ben, over recent years, you've become a seasoned veteran of AstroCon. You've been coming a little while now, and your talks have gained a great reputation for having an exciting and practical element to them. But before we get on to that, can you tell us how you got involved in Asterisk in the first place, and then subsequently in AstroCon?
How I got? Yes, absolutely. First of all, thanks for having me. It's great to be with the Digium crew as always, and AstroCon is absolutely one of my favorite events every year. So my involvement with Asterisk goes pretty far back. I'm going to say it was either 2002 or 2003. And my father-in-law at the time had an idea to start a business to do with Follow Me. So it was a concept that's very familiar to us today, right? You dial an extension and it rings your cell phone and your office phone, that kind of thing. Well, at the time it was not nearly as common, and he decided to build a sort of hosted Follow Me service. So he went out and bought some servers. He had found this really cool open source product called Asterisk, and could I figure it out and help him make it work? Which was interesting because I had zero telephony experience that time. I was, a Linux admin. I'd been in the workforce only a couple of years. But sure enough, we bought one of the first Digium, I think it was a T100P, one of the very first PCI T1 cards from way back. This was actually so early in the days, I think it was still Linux support services. And Mark Spencer drove out. We lived just north of Atlanta. He actually drove over from Huntsville and came and installed the card in person. So that's really the white glove touch there. And that's how it went from there. We kept building, and that business unfortunately didn't make it, but I definitely had caught the bug for telephony and for voice.
Right, and so how did that translate into your first AstroCon, Ben?
So interesting. I had worked with Asterisk for a long time after that, kind of off and on, but it wasn't until I got more deeply involved with Adhearsion, the open source voice application framework, that it seemed to make sense to go to AstroCon. So the first year I went to AstroCon was actually, I believe, 2010. When we announced version 1.0 of Adhearsion. That's what brought me out.
Right, and of course, I believe that you are the project leader for Adhearsion right now.
Yes, I share that honor with Ben Langfeld. The two of us tag team that, and yeah, it's been a great partnership for 5 years now.
Great. Okay, well, it's great to hear a little bit about that pedigree and about your history with the project. And yeah, you've been speaking at AstroCon for a few years now, and as I said, your talks have gained a bit of a reputation. So before we get to the place where we'll talk about what's happening this year, do you just want to take us through the kind of Hall of Fame of your involvement in AstroCon, the kind of talks you've been doing?
Hall of Fame. Wow. Okay. It's an interesting decision every year. Do I take it down more of a technical approach, or do I take it sort of down more of a philosophical vision approach? I like both talks. I think they reach a different audience. I think they reach a different goal, if you will. Initially, my talks really centered around the technology, around Adhearsion, around some of the nuts and bolts of how you build a voice application, why you might want to do it in an external thing rather than an internal thing, extensions.conf. And I still do those from time to time, but a lot of my talks more recently have focused on the bigger vision, like why voice and why Asterisk, and what can we do better than we're doing today? What kind of processes in the telephony world from the business side? How can we be better, more efficient, and introduce new features to the market? So yeah, it's kind of been a mix of those things over the years.
Yes, I saw your talk at ClueCon. It was at that more kind of conceptual level, that particular one. Last year, I think it was last year, you spoke in a double headline gig with Alison. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that.
That was tremendous. I never thought I would share the stage with someone quite as auspicious as Alison. And actually, the way it played out.
You actually, Ben.
Sorry?
He said the same about you.
Well, I'm doubly flattered. It was great. So the way we set that up, I wanted to give a talk about how you could build sort of a virtual assistant with Asterisk, some of the technology that goes into that, speech recognition, text-to-speech, and sort of the software that goes into the design of that. And Allison, of course, her voice is so well known in the Asterisk community, and the way we kind of played it was I would set up an interaction with a virtual assistant, and Allison would play the virtual assistant on stage. And it was great fun, a lot of audience interaction. Really enjoyed that one.
Great, great. Okay, well, I'm just going to tease the viewer just a little bit more because I don't want to get to what you're going to be talking about at this Astricon yet until you've told us what you really love about Astricon in general.
What I really love about Astricon in general, so many things. I mean, I think the most obvious answer really is the people. You know, I see some really tremendous people there every year. I'll say the first time I went to Astricon, I was fairly intimidated, both because I didn't really know anyone face to face. The people I knew from the mailing list, from IRC, but even then, I was not well connected in the Asterisk community. But that didn't last long. And the one thing is, I talked to so many different people, and you'd realize in these conversations, it would sort of dawn on you that the person you're talking to, well, like, oh, well, that's Kevin Fleming, or that's Russell Bryant. And you'd start to realize these very humble and helpful people were these sort of luminaries within the Asterisk community. It was awesome.
Yeah, there is a great collection of people, and as you've said, even though they're very high flyers, they're kind of down-to-earth people who are prepared to share. Definitely. And that's one of the special things. In fact, Julie and I and Pete Engler interviewed Russell Bryant just a week or two ago, and that will be available for people to watch. And one of the things that he said he loved about Astricon was what he called the hallway track, where you get to mingle and meet with all the other people and exchange ideas and opinions and things.
Absolutely. Probably my favorite track.
Great. Okay, so let's not hold back any longer. Ben, tell us what you're going to be talking about at Astricon this year, which incidentally is in Orlando, the 13th to the 15th of October.
Orlando, yes. So this will be a big surprise, I'm sure, to anyone who's seen me talk, but I will be talking about WebRTC.
Hey!
So WebRTC, it's an interesting topic, both because I think the tremendous potential it has to change the way we communicate. That communications won't be tied to just a telephone or to any particular device, that will have very rich communication. It'll be baked into other processes, business processes, games, social, everything you can imagine. And one thing I'm going to talk about, we've been building WebRTC apps now for about three plus years, almost, 3 years. And we've seen WebRTC work really well. We've also seen WebRTC break in some pretty interesting ways. And I think there's a lot written about some of the failings of WebRTC, either browser compatibility issues or codec problems, but in a lot of cases it's simple things. And so my talk is, first of all, just a quick background on sort of what and how with WebRTC. But what I want to focus on is, how does WebRTC sometimes break in surprising ways? And in a lot of cases, they're the things that we absolutely can control for and fix and make the entire experience better. So I won't go into too much more detail than that, but that's what my talk is about, making WebRTC work.
That's a lovely teaser. I'm sure that's going to get people excited about coming to Astricon to see that particular talk. Julie, it looks as if you had a question for Ben there that was just straining at the leash somewhat.
No, I was, one of the things that I had asked Ben about before we went live was, for the folks who are coming to Astricon for the first time, what would be your advice to them on how to get the most out of the conference?
So that's a tough question. I touched on earlier the hallway track. My first advice would be just talk to everyone you can imagine. Without exception, people there are friendly and helpful, and they love talking about this stuff. I mean, we're all there because we love talking about this stuff. So start those conversations. Sit at lunch with people you've never met before. Walk up to conversations that are going on outside of a session, and just get involved, because I think you'll learn so much more if you have the experience of talking to other people who have done things that you haven't done. That's probably the biggest thing.
Do you know what, Ben? You put on the universal rule there, haven't you, that applies to so many areas of life, and that is the more you put in, the more you get out. And
very true.
There's definitely a place for that. Did you have another question there, Julie?
I did not.
Ah, I see. Okay. So, Ben, I think we've probably come towards the end of what we have to ask you, but kind of like a job interview, when you get to that end part, you ask the person, you know, is there any questions that you would have liked to answer that didn't get asked? So anything along those lines, Ben?
Any questions I would like to answer? Wow. Yeah, you may have stumped me there, Mr. Duffett. I'm not quite sure. I mean, we can talk all day about WebRTC and Asterisk if you like, but I'm not sure you have time for that.
Well, no, that's fine. By the way, when you kind of did you look like that, I couldn't help noticing more than a passing resemblance between yourself and the late Freddie Mercury there.
Well, my daughter will be pleased. I'll let her know you said that.
Great.
I love Freddie Mercury.
Both great entertainers, only in kind of slightly different walks of life.
Slightly, yeah. My level of over-the-top entertainer is several levels lower.
Yeah, although actually that prompts me, let's perhaps do this as the closing question. You have had some musical interactions, haven't you, in Astricon in the past?
Yeah. Yeah. I think my favorite story there was after the, I think it was 2012 in Denver. Myself and Randy Resnick ended up at the house of Dave Michaels, who lived not too far from where it was being held that year, and had a very impromptu sort of jam session in his basement. And it's definitely one of my all-time favorite memories. That was a great time.
Great. Okay, so maybe one other piece of advice for people newly coming to Astricon is bring a musical instrument, because you never know.
You never know.
Great. Well, Ben, it's been a pleasure having you on Asterisk Live, hasn't it, Julie?
It's been great, and so for everyone who's watching, be sure to go to astricon.net, and you can see all of the amazing content, not just Ben's session, but all the other sessions that David has put together. And then be able to register there, and we not only have the single pass plan, but we also have a diamond pass, which pays for 4 people from your company to attend Astricon, and gives you more people to see the amazing content that David has put together.
Right. I can guarantee that for everybody that wants to see Ben, and there will be a lot of people wanting to see Ben, they'll be looking across from Ben and they'll be saying, boy, there's these other talks going on that I'd really like to go to as well. But we do video everything. But as Julie says, if you've got more colleagues you want to bring along, the Diamond Pass is exactly what that is designed for. So,
all right, everyone, thanks for joining us today, and we will see you next time on Asterisk Live. Take care.
Thank you very much, Ben. We're going to see you in Orlando.
My pleasure. Thank you very much. We'll see you there.
Bye now.